Muncha, Muncha, Muncha by Candace Flemming, illustrated by G. Brian Carras. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables, and of gobbling them all up. But he never once tried until... "This spring," said Mr. McGreely, "this spring, by golly, I'm going to plant a garden." So he hoed and he sowed and he watched his garden grow. Somebody else looks like they're watching their garden grow too. "Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes. Yum, yum, yummy," said Mr. McGreely. "I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh vegetables." But one night, when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, 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 pat. Munch, 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 munch. Mr. McGreely was angry. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his gnawed sprouts, oh boy, he built a small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. "There," he declared, "no bunny can get into my garden now." And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and tippy tippy pat pat pat, spring hurtle dash dash, and munch 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 munch. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his nibbled leaves and gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence and all around his vegetable garden. "Humph," he huffed. "Those flop ears will never get over it. No bunny can get in my garden now." That's some fence. And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and tippy 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 pat pat, scribble scribble scratch scratch scratch, spring hurtle dash dash dash, munch munch munch. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he made a deep, wet trench outside his tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his garden. "Ha ha," he snorted. "Those puff tails can't get under and they can't get over it. No bunny will get in my garden now." And the sun went down, and the moon came up. Tippy tippy pat pat, dive dive, splash splash splash, drip drip scratch scratch, spring dash hurtle hurtle dash dash dash, and munch munch munch. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chomped blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was furious. So he hammered and blocked and sawed and stalked and drilled and filled and tapped and locked, and he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his garden. "I've outsmarted those twitch-faced whiskers for sure," he exclaimed. They can't get through it, they can't go under it, and they can't go over it, and no bunny, no way, no how can get into my vegetable garden now. And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and tippy, tippy, stop. The 3 hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge, enormous thing before them, and tippy, tippy, pat, the bunnies hopped away. The next morning, Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, and he was happy. I beat the bunnies, he whooped, and did a jiggly-wiggly victory dance. Then he climbed over, jumped across, squeezed between, crawled under, until he reached his vegetable garden. Ah, sighed Mr. McGreely, at last, smacking his lips. He picked and he pulled up lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, and with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. Muncha, muncha, muncha. Well, look who's in his basket. Those sneaky rabbits. The end. Good luck with your garden, everyone.